sentiment is concerned today with any budget announcement?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Manish, you are on mute.
The only statement which the markets would be watching out for carefully would be the taxation part. LTCG, STCG, STT. You got to lower some of these. I mean, these are the only things which are worrying the market. Apart from that, the fiscal deficit number at 4.2%, your nominal GDP growth assumption of 10.5% translating into revenue collection, and incentives for exports because tariffs are hitting us, and plus your capex number. Of course, fiscal 26 will be left with some sort of revenue shortfall as things stand today. So, FY26 capex numbers are going to be whittled down in all probability, and in that backdrop, we should be looking at slightly elevated capex numbers for FY27, around 12.5 lakh crore ballpark. Plus the borrowings number, gross borrowings number at around 16.5 lakh crore. If these things do come about, markets are going to fly.
Sakshi, take it ahead with Akshay for us.
All right, Akshay, just about 3 minutes to go before the markets open for us. The indicative action is that 13 points higher on the Nifty is what we could start at 25,333. Although it's gold and silver that's crashed right at the open. 17,000 rupees down for silver, 9,000 rupees down for gold. So the over the weekend kind of a crash that we see is now getting even graver. How are you looking at the markets? What will you watch out for? What will your pre-positioning be before the before the speech happens? How will you trade the markets?
Good morning to all. Good morning, Sakshi. And it feels so good to see so many cheering faces on a Sunday morning. Well, for the Nifty, the data positioning continues to be weak as far as the FIs are concerned. A lot of short positions continue in the FNO segment. Technical placement is more or less neutral. I would suggest go for a level-based approach where 25,500 based spot Nifty would be an important level to watch out for. There might be some bit of an uptick in the initial first hour before the budget announcement. 25,400, 25,500 may be tested, but we need to be a bit more careful. Only if market sustains about 25,500, I would recommend to go for a buy position. Otherwise, it's more of a muted approach the market might give to the budget today.
Let's focus on some prices that have already come in. The Nifty Metals Index, ladies and gentlemen, is going to open 3 percentage points lower. A 6% down circuit on silver, on MCX, ditto for gold, and therefore all equity derivatives linked with them, Hindustan Copper, Hindustan Zinc, Vedant, National Aluminium, all of them slipping dramatically in trade. Broadly, the first 1 hour will be quiet, and then beyond 11 a.m. when the part B starts, ladies and gentlemen, the action will pick up.
So apart from, of course, the big picture, let's take a look at specific stocks that are going to be in focus. First of all, let's remind everyone, this is the first time, I think, that the budget's on a Sunday, or at least the first time in as long as I can remember. Yes, it is. Say our experts who have been doing this for close to 40 years. So this is highly unusual. Markets have also opened, of course, to track all the action. Keep an eye also on pockets like defense. Keep an eye on rail. Keep an eye on anything that is PSU related, where we could see the government announce some kind of fillip or some kind of spending budgets or allocations. This is really what the market's watching out for. Any boost to manufacturing would be a huge positive. That's a bigger step that we're watching out for. Industry status for certain pockets. Of course, anything on exports and tariffs. So the hotel industry is going to be watching out. Pockets like jewelry, textiles, all of these, smaller pockets of stocks will be keeping a very, very close eye on the budget. So from a market perspective, it's not just the big picture. It's also for the broader markets and really where we could see some of that action. And key to track will be defense, will be rail. These are the pockets that have actually been moving ahead of the budget. So maybe not on the index, but in terms of a build-up, we've definitely been seeing it across some of these key pockets. All right, opening bell on your screens. Actually, what are we picking up on opening bell?
25,312. I mean, we quickly slipped into the red, Abha, as far as the Nifty is concerned, just toggling at the flat line at this point in time. Let's also pull up the Nifty Bank there to see if for the mid-cap 100 index. Look at the small caps, even further down, 1.1% lower. So the larger mood, the broader market sell-off is pointing out to some nervousness. India Wix, the volatility index that tracks the greed and the fear in the markets, that's up by 3.9%, clearly indicating to a lot of nervousness on the D Street. Metals index, looking at and mirroring the gold and silver fall. It's again 4% down. What Shell was pointing out, on Friday we had a massive 5% fall there. And the stocks that have been tracking, copper, silver, all of those stocks are down in double digits, about 15.5% lower for Hind Copper. Look at also in Zinc at this point in time, a 10% lower circuit for Hindustan Zinc at 565. So all those gains that we've got in the last 1 month, many of them are going away. Hindalco down by 5%. Shell, what else are you watching out for?
Well, Sakshi, the top 5 losers are either metal stocks or related metal spaces, including MCX, 10% lower at 2275. This is, of course, the global sell-off that we are seeing. Let me just point out some positivity. We've hit upon 5 top losers. Let's look at the gainers as well. Well, the complete defensive market comes into 4. Look at Sun Pharma, 3.5% higher. And Siddharth, a very good beginning for the NSE partnership. IFCI, which is a major holder of NSE stock, is up 10%. It's the top gainer. You have Escorts in the green, 2.5% higher. The Nifty Auto Index doing pretty well because we are looking for the auto numbers to come in. And of course, the likes of Zentech ahead of the defense budget, 2% higher. Insurance stocks are doing well. That's what at least I am looking at.
So I want to come to you, Siddharth, on something because, given a slight nervousness in the markets, but largely the budget has been priced in. So unless and until there's some kind of fillip to growth, there's no real particular downside as far as, Nirmala really disappoints. I mean, if she absolutely does nothing, not even any kind of surface level consumer-led incentives or something, that's really when we'll see the markets nosedive. But otherwise, I see a limited downside. What do you think?
About 3 factors to remember.
Yeah.
One, the Goldilocks movement that the Indian economy is going through, and our guests here would comment on that, but since we are focusing on the markets for the next few minutes, let me try and respond to that question that you made. Is there scope, necessity for tinkering around with further as far as our indirect tax architecture is concerned? Of course there is, but where will that happen? Outside of the budget. Is there necessity to look at further direct tax changes? Well, there could always be at the margins changing this, changing that. But remember, we are now in an environment where the government of India, the finance ministry, wants everyone to move to the new tax regime. No exemptions, lower thresholds of taxes to pay. And therefore, that is a policy direction that will continue. Therefore, what is left? It is customs tariffs. Now, customs tariffs used to take a lot of time in the budget speech. Dr. Baru would recall that it sometimes used to be 20, 30 minutes plus, including the days of Pranab Mukherjee as the finance minister. He brought that back when he came back to the finance ministry 2009 onwards. So effectively, the scope to tinker around with taxes and tariffs is limited to that extent. So what does it leave with? A statement of medium-term priorities, because remember, one of the criticisms of our budget-making process is you announce something on 1st February. By the time the first policy architecture is made, half of the next fiscal year is gone. And that is why implementation becomes an issue, and outcome budgets were supposed to fix that for us. So I would say, don't surprise anyone negatively. Continue down the path of fiscal consolidation and solid, factual, credible numbers.
Go ahead, please.
Let me just mark the markets. Nifty Metals Index, Sakshi, is now down 4.5%. This comes after Friday's loss of 5.2%. In the red are the PSU Banking Index, 1.35% lower. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is very heavy profit booking, nothing much to be worried about. We had seen a very sharp rally in the metal prices as also in PSU Bank. So money is moving from the book into the bank. Small cap index is down 1.2%. And it's a very light start to the market, Siddharth. 1,057 shares.
Focus for capital expenditure will it be in line trend with what we have seen over the past few years, especially post-COVID, or should we expect a major change?
So that we would be seeing a normal minimal hike that has been continuing for the past 3 to 4 years. Nirmala Sitharaman knows that the infrastructure ministries are very capable of spending their money, and they have been spending quite regularly, and so they don't have much of the budget revenue left. So now we will expect normal 3 to 4% allocation for both roads and railways coming up. Not much highway spending would be done because the ministry is itself managing its own expenses, raising money from the markets, getting its highways listed and monetized. So these strategies have worked, and in case the ministry will not be taking too much money from the budget, but a significant 3 to 5% allocation for highways, 3 to 5% for railways, and port, shipping, waterways, telecom sector would see the minimal hike going forward. Secondly, Siddharth, what we know is, of course, the MSME sector. The government would be focusing on MSMEs and agriculture, with the government probably giving a very big announcement for the agriculture sector and in the name of the PM Kusum scheme and its subsequent continuation.
Absolutely. Dr. Baru, very quickly, deregulation is something that is echoing across the world. We have had a deregulation task force. Some policy changes have already happened, and Rajdeep and I both heard Chandrababu Naidu Garu in Davos tell us that it should no longer be about ease of doing business, it should also be about speed of doing business. Is deregulation likely to be a focus, and what would its merit be if at all it were to be announced today?
Well, clearly it has to be. You know, you spoke about Goldilocks moment, and this has become a popular phrase. I've never understood what exactly it means, because what we have, if you see the overall economic situation, is a fairly good record on fiscal stabilization. But demand has not been picking up. Demand continues to constrain capacity utilization, which is below 80%.